This is a lecture from OpenTuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
Okay, this is the second lecture on variances, and if you remember in the first lecture I produced the fixed budget, the flex budget, we got the total variances, but as I said, we're now going to start analysing these variances. Why did we overspend on materials? Why did we overspend on labour? And so on. Let's start doing it. If you look at example 2, for the same question, it says analyse, first of all, each of the cost variances. So let's look at materials, first of all. Let me change the colour. Materials. And let's ask ourselves, or let's calculate, why did we actually overspend? If you look at the cost card, the cost card says materials. It is 18 a unit, but it should be 4 kilos of material for each unit. And the cost of materials should be $4.50 per kilo. That's how we got the 18 a unit. We know we overspent, but we're going to sort out, did we really use 4 kilos a unit? Did we use more or did we use less? Did we really pay $4.50 per kilo? Well, the analysis, I'll look first of all at the $4.50, and we call this the materials expenditure or price variance. Oops. And all I'm concerned here with is, did we pay $4.50 or didn't we? And so the way we check, we compare what we actually bought and what we actually paid with, again, what we actually bought but at what we should have paid. Now let me show you what I mean. How many kilos did we actually buy? If you look at the actual information, it says that we bought 35,464 kilos. And so whether that's right or wrong, whether we bought too much or too little, that's what we actually bought. And I'm simply going to compare what we paid with what we should have paid. Well, how much did we pay? It's given us the total here. We paid 163,455. How much should we have paid if we'd paid the right price for those 35,464 kilos? Look back at the cost card. We should have been paying $4.50 a kilo. And so in total, for what we bought, we should have paid $159,588. So clearly, we've paid more than we should have done. We've been paying more than $4.50 a kilo. And how much on its own has that cost us? By paying too much per kilo, it's cost us an extra $3,867. And there is our variance, our expenditure price variance. We've paid more, and so it's adverse. Obviously, paying more ultimately means less profit. Well, that sorted that out. We did pay more than $4.50 a kilo. But the other thing we need to look at is, even if we had paid the right price, $4.50, did we use the right quantity? It should have been 4 kilos per unit. And so to check on this, we look at what we call the materials usage variance. And here all I care about is, did we use more or less than we were supposed to? So we compare our actual usage. Well, in kilos, how many kilos did we use? We used 35,464. We compare that with how much we should have used, the standard usage for the actual production. Because remember, we produce more than budget. There's no point in comparing actual with the original fixed budget. For the number we actually produced, how many kilos should we have used? Well, how many did we produce? The actual production was 8,900 units. How many kilos should we have used per unit from the cost card? It should have been 4 kilos. And so in total, we should have used 35,600. So in fact, here we did quite well. We used fewer kilos of material than we expected. How many fewer? Minus. We used 136 kilos less than we'd have expected. And if that's the only thing that had changed, how much money would it have saved us? Well, at standard cost per kilo, 450, it would have saved us how much? 136 at 450. It would have saved us 612. And because using fewer kilos on its own would have saved us money, that variance is favourable. And so we used less material on its own, that would have saved us 612, but even on the material we actually bought, we paid more than we should have done. That cost us 3867. Now in the exam, you must be confident of your workings. I mean, learn the rules. You can set the workings out any way you want. Learn the rules and be confident. However, because of what I did in the last lecture, we can actually check it in that the total materials variance. I said that the expenditure variance, we'd overspent by 3867. In addition, we'd got the usage variance, 612, but that's favourable. And so the net variance, 867 adverse, 612 favourable. The net variance, 3255 adverse. And is that what we got at the beginning? In the last lecture, there we are. We knew very well that overall we overspent a variance of 3255. We've now analysed it. 3867 adverse, we paid too much per kilo. 612 favourable, we managed to produce using fewer kilos. Now, sorry repeating, but in the exam, don't waste time checking. You know, they might only ask for one of the variances, they may ask for both. You've got to learn the rules. As I've already said, you can set out your workings any way you want, as long as you get the right answer. But there we are. Those are the rules for materials. All right, let's carry on. Let's do a similar thing on labour. And if you look at the cost card, as far as labour is concerned, every unit should be using 5 hours, and we should be paying $5 per hour. So although, as you'll see as I go through, there is one extra thing we need to look at here. Primarily, we're going to say as before, did we pay $5 an hour, or did we pay more, did we pay less? And separately, did we spend 5 hours on each unit? Did we take longer? Were we faster? Now, so there's one extra thing I need to look at, so I suppose we go through. But first of all, let's look at the £5. Did we pay $5 an hour or didn't we? And we call this the rate of pay variance. Of the rate of pay variance, all I care about is did we pay $5 an hour or didn't we? And so we take the actual hours we paid for and we compare what we paid with what we should have paid. So actual hours paid at actual cost compared with the actual hours paid, right, but it's too many too few's irrelevant. The hours we paid for at what we should have paid, standard cost. Now look at the information. The actual results, it says labour, we paid 45,400 hours. If you're worried about the worked bit, be patient for a minute. But that's how many hours we paid for. And how much did we actually pay? Well, they told us how much we paid in total, 224,515. Oh, again, all I want to know is did we pay $5 an hour or didn't we? So for those actual hours of 45,400, we should have paid $5 per hour. We should have paid 227,000. And so on this we actually did quite well, surely. We paid less. We're obviously paying less than $5 an hour. And on its own, how much did that save us? 227 minus 224,515. 2,485. It's favourable. For the hours we paid for, we paid less than we were expecting. Okay, that's fine. So from now on, ignore the fact we paid a different rate. Even if we had been paying at $5 an hour, there's another bit here that's a bit odd. If you look at the actual results, it says we paid 45,400 hours, but they only worked for 44,100. So for some reason, we've been paying them for hours when they did no work at all. Maybe they were just sat around doing nothing and we paid them. Maybe machines broke down and so they couldn't do any work and we still paid them. But whatever the reason, we've been paying them for hours when they did no work. And obviously you're losing money if you pay them for hours when they do no work. Well, we call this the idle time variance. Idle, well, when you're not working, we say you're idle, you're doing nothing. And so let's see how much it cost us to pay them to work, pay them for hours that didn't work. So this is, I think, an easy one to remember. We compare the actual hours we paid $45,400 with the actual hours they worked. $44,100. And so how many hours did we pay them when they were idle? We paid them for 1,300 hours. And how much would that have cost us? Well, remember, we've already dealt with the fact we paid a different rate. So forgetting that, at standard cost per hour, on its own, paying them for 1,300 hours when they do nothing would have cost us, standard cost, $5 per hour. In total, 6,500. And surely that's adverse. Clearly, we're wasting money. We're overpaying if we pay them for hours when they do nothing. All right, just one thing left. that we've dealt with the idle hours, we've dealt with the paying the wrong rate, but the remaining thing is we need to check, did they spend 5 hours a unit or not? The cost card says every unit should take 5 hours of work. Well, let's check. And we call this the efficiency variance. Did they work faster or slower than we'd have expected? And so to check that, we compare the actual hours they worked $44,100. Compare it with how many hours they should have worked for the actual production. So the standard hours for the actual production. How many did we actually produce? We produced again 8,900 units. How many hours should they have worked on each unit? From the cost card, 5 hours. And so we expected them to have worked 44,500 hours. So here they've done quite well. We've managed to work a little bit faster than we'd have expected. We saved, what is it, 400 hours. And remember, we're looking at each thing separately, so if that's the only thing that had changed, how much would it have saved us? Well, at standard cost per hour of, what was it again? $5. It would have saved us 2,000. They worked faster than we expected. On its own, that would have saved us money. It's favourable. And so slightly more to remember there, I've already said, it's up to you to learn the rules. Once you've learned the rules, it's just speed and being careful. Again, in the exam, don't waste time checking yourself, but here we can check because with those 3 variances, 2,485 favourable, 6,500 adverse, and what was it? 2,000 favourable. The total of the 3 is 2,015 adverse. And again, if you look back to what we did in the last lecture, the total labour variance, it was indeed 2,015. So we knew we'd overspent. But you see, it is important, whether it's materials, whether it's labour, it's important that we're able to analyse it. There like to be different managers involved. You know, maybe one manager fixes the rate of pay. They've managed to pay less, that's good. And maybe it's another manager who checks how fast they're working. They've worked faster, that's good as well. There's a big problem, of course. I'd want to know, why did we pay them? Why did we pay them for those 1,300 hours when they did nothing? I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. All right, for this lecture, just one more, the last marginal variable cost. We've done labour, we've done materials. Let's have a look at variable overheads. And if you look at the cost card, and quite importantly here, you'll see, although it's $10 a unit, it was 5 hours at $2 per hour. And we do assume in this sort of question that 5 hours are the same hours as labour. We say that the variable overheads are done on an hourly basis, that just as each unit should take 5 hours to make, and therefore 5 hours of labour, Similarly, if it's taking 5 hours to make, it should use 5 hours worth of overheads. So it's the same figure as labour. Each unit should take us 5 hours. We should be paying for overheads $2 an hour. And again, we'll analyse. Let's check first of all, did we pay $2 an hour in overheads or not? And we call this the variable overheads expenditure variance. And quite importantly, we assume that overheads only occur in hours we're actually working. And you remember with labour, they paid for extra hours when they weren't doing any work. Well, fine. For labour, because we were paying them for those extra hours, it cost us money. But we assume that if they're not doing anything, there are no overheads, that there are only overheads during hours they actually work. And so to check whether we paid $2 or not, we take the actual hours worked at actual cost. And to check whether it was more or less than $2 an hour, we compare it with actual hours worked at standard cost. And so let's do the arithmetic and check. How many hours did we work? We worked 44,100. And how much did we actually pay? Well, again, we're told the total, 87,348. And let's see how much we should have paid for those hours. We worked 44,100. The overheads should have been $2 per hour, 88,200. And so yet again, we seem to have saved a bit. We paid slightly less than we'd have expected. The saving, 852. And because it's a saving, it's favourable. That alone would give us more profit. Finally, of course, even if we had paid $2 an hour, did we work faster or slower than we would have expected? Did we, as a result, save money, lose money? And so, still variable overheads, but the efficiency variance let's check. To check, we compare the actual hours worked They actually worked 44,100 hours. Compare it with the hours we should have worked, the standard hours for the actual production. We produced 8,900 units. Each unit should have taken 5 hours of work, so we should have worked 44,500 hours. Again, we worked a bit faster. We've saved money. We've saved 400 hours. And how much money would that have saved us? Well, at standard cost per hour, from the cost card for variable overheads, $2, it would have saved us 800. Again, here we can check the two together. There's a saving of 1652. What we did in the last lecture, what was the total there? 1652 favourable. And incidentally, this actually becomes an easy one to remember because the efficiency variance, it's always the same as labour in numbers of hours. You see, if you look back, we already knew that we worked 400 hours faster than we expected. For labour, that was saving us at the labour rate of $5 per hour. For variable overheads, again we've saved 400 hours, but we save at the overhead rate per hour of $2. Okay, we're not there yet, but I will pause there because there are our main cost variances. Again, you won't be asked to do all of this in one question, but any of those variances can be asked. You know, and a lot of them will be asked, albeit in separate questions. I said it's very much learning rules. People set out the workings in different ways. That's your choice. Nobody's going to look at your workings. I've set it out the way I find easiest to remember. And the more you follow the logic of it, the easier it is to remember. The danger of just simply learning a rule, this times this minus this times this, without thinking. The danger is in the middle of an exam. You know, you remember the rule wrongly. But the more, watch this lecture again as many times as you need, but the more you see the logic of what we've done, the easier it is to remember. And of course, the arithmetic itself should be no problem. Anyway, I'll pause there because we're not quite there. We need to look at 2 more sets of variances and produce a statement for management, but we'll look at that in the next lecture.